Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our channel. We are so excited today because we are out of that Intern Queen office and we are at the E-News headquarters. And we're here with Melanie Bromley, who's the chief news correspondent at E-News. Thanks so much.
So lovely to see you again.
Yes.
Thank you for asking me to do this.
Yes, of course. Melanie, if you guys remember, was on our Intern Queen Party panel in Los Angeles 2 years ago, if you guys were there. And I feel like, Melanie, you have what so many consider to be the dream job. So many college girls and guys come to our site and they're constantly writing us and telling us that they want to be on camera reporting and doing entertainment news, which is what you do so much of. So I would love to hear, how did you get started? How did you get into all of this?
So I initially was, I did a physical geography major at university. So I was studying soil science. So absolutely nothing to do with journalism.
Nothing to do with us.
During that, I actually got really interested in geography and human geography and how news was reported and how if a place was considered a bad crime area, that more crime could happen in that area if it was in the newspaper. So that got me into media. So then I ended up contacting the local radio station to get some experience in news, even though I still wanted to be a geographer. And that was how I got started. And then I just was bitten by the bug. And I remember my first news editor saying to me, if you can learn to meet deadlines in the news industry, you can manage any job in the world, because deadlines are so tough. It means that you have these goals that you set for yourself. And if you can achieve them on a daily basis, then you can do anything, not just in media, but anything.
And so when you called that first local radio station to get experience, what do you remember? What did you say?
Yes, I researched them, and guys, I'm in my early 40s, so this is before the internet.
This is
really was a big thing. And I found out that the radio station was actually launched on the day that I was born.
Oh, wow.
And so I called up the radio station and I didn't send an email. And I said, by the way, I was born on the day that you first broadcast and I'd like to come in and speak to you. And they said, of course, come in. So I found that kind of common thread. And so much of my career has been about that, actually, is reaching out to people and just going for it.
I love that piece of advice, though, that you found a common thread and sort of an interesting kind of wowzer fact.
Totally.
And you just called. You weren't afraid of that rejection, and you just called and kind of said, you know,
can I come in?
Right, can I come in? And it worked.
Yeah, and I think if you do have somebody that you look up to reach out to them, whether it's, there's so many more ways now, social media, like Twitter, Instagram, and just ask to have 5 minutes of somebody's time.
Right.
I actually have an email that that is saved, whereby if I get an email from somebody, a cold call, I will send it back and it automatically has advice, because I know the things that people are going to ask me. So I have something already written for them. The amount of people that have helped me in my career because they've just reached out randomly and didn't know me but have just reached out. And it's just been, I've had 5 minutes on my hand in between a deadline and I'm like, sure, I'll help you.
Right, sure, I'll get on the phone.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll do this. No, I love that. And so for all of the students watching who are probably in college right now, you know, they're sitting in their dorm room watching this and they're saying, how do I get from here to where she is? I mean, what do you advise? I mean, clearly this is Intern Queen YouTube, so we're always talking internships, but what types of internships should they get? What types of experiences do people look for when they hire someone like you?
Well, things are changing massively in the media landscape, as you know, and there are so many people out there who can just read prompter but who can't report news. And that's, you know, traditionally in news at least. And things are changing now. You know, a lot more news now is live, whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on Instagram stories. Like, a lot more is not pre-recorded.
Right, it's instantaneous.
Yeah, so you have to be able to know your stuff. So I think for anybody out there who wants to be a journalist on camera, really learn what your beat's going to be. Have whatever it is that you're interested in, and naturally interested in. You know, don't fake being, I could not be a sports journalist. I would have no idea what I'm talking about.
Me either.
But as a girl growing up in London, I was obsessed with Hollywood. I would take the Monday off school the day after the Oscars because we were 8 hours ahead, so I could watch the awards show overnight in England. And because I was obsessed with the red carpet and all of that stuff. And so that was what I gravitated towards in my journalism. So just if you do want to be on camera, whatever kind of show, whether you're really funny and that's your like skill, or whether you love business, or whether you're into cryptocurrency, I don't know, like find the thing that you're passionate about and then mix your journalism in with that. And then being on air is the easiest part of it. It might be the hardest kind of job to do, as in like from the outside, as people, so many people who want to do it. But it's easy to be on camera if you know your stuff, right?
Right.
Because then
if
you're
prepared.
authentic and you're prepared, and you automatically are going to stand out from other candidates. I don't think people are being hired because of what they look like anymore.
Right.
Right? So even 10 years ago, it might have been that there was a stereotypical look that you might have with a newsreader or whomever. That is not the case anymore.
It's like they're breaking the mold now.
They
It's
really
changing.
Are. It's not about that. It's everybody can look good on camera if you have good hair and makeup, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, the most important thing, what will make you stand out, is just knowing your stuff. Really being able to talk about something with conviction, with authority, with a depth of knowledge behind it, and with substance.
So a lot of the people that watch our channel are sitting in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, and they feel like because they're not in New York or LA or London or whatever it is, that they do not have a shot at success in this business.
Right.
What advice, and I think you mentioned the local radio station earlier, which I think is a great point, finding things that are local. I mean, what advice do you have for those people who feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere, I will never succeed?
I would honestly contact your local station or your local newspaper, and I'd started in print, because the best journalists have come from local news. That's where you're going to learn how to cover a hurricane, a tornado, a death, a heartwarming story, an animal shelter story. You're going to learn all different facets of the industry and of news by doing that. It's very, very rare to be somebody who has no experience and suddenly gets a job on a big network. You're better getting the experience locally. Find your mentors locally, whoever they might be, like whether it's a local news director or the local anchor or a journalist or the beat reporter or the courts reporter, whatever it might be, like contact those people and ask to shadow them, ask to just get 15 minutes of their time and just ask them how they got started.
Yeah, find the mentor. I love that. And so let's talk about your day today. So I came in to see you today, and I don't know, as a viewer, you think like, oh, she gets to do hair and makeup. She gets to go on TV a bunch, and maybe online, on TV, whatever it is. And then she gets to go home. And I was surprised when you told me that you have like 100 more things to do today.
Yeah.
So I think that our viewers might be interested in that as well. Can you give us like a day in the life?
Yes. Okay, so I'll tell you yesterday, because it's easier from start to finish.
Okay.
So I had a deadline on a long form piece, so a Prince piece that was going online, because I also write as well as report on air, which I love. That makes me a better journalist, right? That makes me better at being on air, as if I know the stuff that I'm reporting. So I got up at 6 and I finished writing that piece. That piece came from a dinner I had the week before, which obviously happened after work, from a source.
Oh, so an idea, kind of like an idea that came up?
And this is all about Meghan and Harry, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and how they got set up and who the secret matchmaker was that set them up. So I had a dinner with somebody last week. I got that information. I finished writing the piece yesterday morning at 6 a.m. Came in, had hair and makeup at about 9, which was late for me. It's normally at 7:30. Then I prepared for a show called Live For Me, which is a live show on Facebook where we'll cover kind of 5 or 6 hot topics.
And that must be huge right now, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a really, really
you
big
said,
show.
just media changing and all the eyeballs being on Facebook. And
it's my favorite show. E-News is not my favorite show. I love it, but I prefer being live because it's so much more dynamic. So we did that show live. Then I came off. Then I helped put the package together for E-News on that Prince piece. So a producer who helped me help put together the TV piece. We did that, and then I had E-News daily show, yesterday's show, where I read the news on that, so I did that. Then
so and what time are we at now? We started at 6.
4 o'clock.
Okay, so
probably.
it's already 4 o'clock. You're still
4
going.
p.m.
Okay.
And then I did a bit more work here. And then I left the office and I went to a Source dinner last night because this is my passion. I need to,
So cool.
if I don't have
Right.
information, I can't write
Right.
pieces. And then I got home at 9:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not just responsible for being on camera and reporting the news. You're actually, outside of what we all see, you're
Yeah.
actually building sources and gaining that information and coming up with ideas and
Yeah.
writing and executing these pieces.
Yes.
That's
So
fascinating.
the big thing we have at the moment with the royal wedding that is coming out May the 19th. So at the moment, my big project is I'm doing a different column every week on that. So, and that is, they're my ideas. I'm the one that's planning out. You know, I was just saying what
I've
I'm
been
doing for
obsessed
next
with her
week.
since she was on Suits. I told people years ago, I told my friends in PR, I was like, you should sign her. She's going to be huge. And they were like, oh, and I'm like, oh yeah, the girl from Suits. Look at that, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. So just a few more questions
Yes.
for you. So we did pose the question to our Instagram followers yesterday. I'm sure we'll show a picture of that. And we just said, what questions would you ask Melanie? And one person wanted to know, like, what do you do to prepare for an interview? So let's say you're interviewing Kanye West or Kim Kardashian tomorrow. I mean, what goes into that preparation?
Okay, so I am a nightmare preparing for interviews. As an example, from a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed Corey Feldman, which is obviously a deep subject that he's talking about at the moment. But I had concussion. Because I'd just come back from Jamaica and accidentally been hit on the head with a swing. So I was not allowed to look at my phone the day before, and then was assigned that. And my problem is that I research a lot because I like to do interviews with people and not look down at my questions because I want to just have a conversation with them. It's how you get the best stuff from people. And so I couldn't research the day before on a really serious topic. He ended up being 3 hours late because he couldn't fly out in New York. It was a thing. So for that one interview, which was a half-hour interview, I probably researched for about 4 hours.
Wow.
And that's what I do.
Wow.
And so I tend to do those big,
So that you
harder
research before you
interviews.
right. You like to have your questions in your head so that you're not looking down at your paper.
and because
so that
I
you can have
want
the
to make
conversation.
news.
Right.
I don't want to get the same answers that everybody else has got. I need to look. If I can read everything about somebody, I can find ways and holes in the story and how to move a story on.
Right.
Which is going to help e-news ultimately.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. And then what are the must-haves for like when you go to a red carpet interview, whether it's, you know, dry shampoo or I don't know, people talk about all kinds of tips and tricks. Like what are your things that you say, if I'm going to be on camera on a red carpet somewhere, I have to have these things?
So I'm rubbish on red carpets, but I've been having to do a lot more recently, but I'm really not the best person because of that. Red carpet interviewing is so different from sitting down and doing a news interview, because it's a lot more of kind of banter and how are you and like having a joke, and that makes better TV moments, right? But I have been doing a lot more recently and it's been fine. I think the must have is actually a smile and being, can I use the word ballsy? There are so many people on the red carpet who will just stand there and wait for a celebrity to be brought over and they're holding their microphone. Sometimes in those situations where somebody's walking down the line, I did the Stella McCartney launch last week. You just have to call out somebody's name and like say something to them and get them to come over to the camera.
Yeah.
And actually, I always interview the people that not everybody wants to interview. Last week, for example, again, Stella McCartney launch, where Jessica Pastor, a really big stylist in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody else interviewed her because she hasn't, like, they didn't quite know who she was working with. And I was doing a piece on Meghan Markle again and her style, and ended up asking Jessica what she thought Meghan should wear for her wedding. And Jessica said to me, you know, I used to style Meghan Markle. And I said, no, I had no idea.
That's cool.
And so I ended up getting lots of good information from her just because we were having a conversation and just by chance I got information from
Right.
her. And so that's the kind, I think, just be prepared for anything. As far as like...
And like talk to everybody is kind of like,
talk
right?
to everyone.
Like,
Like everybody has a
don't
story.
blow people off because they're,
No.
or write people off because they're not.
Everybody has a story.
Right.
It's just about like finding that like
Finding that
angle
story,
and
yeah.
asking them a question and being genuinely interested in them.
Right.
But on a shallow end of what you need, I would say eyelash glue, because that would be a nightmare if your eyelashes came up halfway through. And your phone, because there are so many times when there are so many people in Hollywood right now. There are so many TV shows, for example.
Or like you don't know their name.
Well, you're
is
not
what you're gonna
quite
say.
sure, like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, what was the latest thing I read about them? Because you're reading all the time. So it
Right.
just helps to be able to look
Right.
something up very quickly.
Oh my goodness. And so finally, to conclude the video, just one great piece of advice for everybody watching that wants to be you.
Don't wait for an opportunity to come along, make it happen. And by that, I do mean write as many emails as you can or engage with people on social media and see if you can get time with people that you look up to, and look at career paths that you want to emulate. And the people that, especially if they've taken an unusual path, ask them what happened. Why did they take that left turn then? How did they change from being this to this? Like, what was it that made them do that? It will help inspire you. It'll help you realize that anything is possible. And I promise you, hard work is going to get you wherever you want to go. You just have to like stick at it.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. We'll include all of your social media handles and all of that in the box below.
And I'm really happy to answer extra questions if you
want to
know something.
That's good to know. So leave your questions for Melanie in the comments below, and she just might answer them.
Yeah,
Bye, guys. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.